All right, guys, welcome to Question of Strength. Basically, let's talk training. Before we get to your questions, which I will answer with pleasure, of course, the more questions we have, the better show we're going to have. I want to address several topics today. I want to take time to speak my mind about a bit more than one topic, if possible, because I find that uh, might be applying in your training, but also might spark further questions during the presentation. So the first topic I want to cover is, well, I'm going to introduce it by asking you a question. Um, what do West Side Conjugate Training, CrossFit, and 531 have in common? Seemingly not much because all three are almost complete opposite of each other, right? Of course, 531 and West Side both target gaining maximum strength as part of one of the goals, but it does so in a much different way. What these three methodologies have in common is that they don't follow a set program, or they allow for a lot of variation. Now you're going to be quick to add, to say that, well, Westside does use a three set of, let's say, the speed of work, which never change, and you also have the max effort work, of course, but you're changing the max effort exercise every week. You also change the assistance exercises whenever you want. The only thing that is uh, going to stay in the program with Westside is the dynamic effort work that doesn't change, and the fact that you do have like max effort workouts and dynamic effort workouts. And you might say that, well, 531 is, after all, like a pre-programmed 3 weeks wave where you have percentages given and stuff like that. Yes, for the main lift, but gym gives you tons of option as far as assistance work goes, and even in many cases, just recommend as long as you're doing some assistance work at the end, it's fine. You can put conditioning in there, you can put bodybuilding work in there, you can put more technical work on the main lift if you want. Uh, in CrossFit, obviously, I don't really need to explain why it has lots of variation. That's literally the nature of that form of training. Okay, so and all three are extremely popular. Okay, and all three get great results, at least compared to what most people are doing in gyms. So it kind of begs the question: is how important is it to follow a rigid, strict, and properly planned training program or training cycle? And yes, this is coming from someone who actually sells training program for a living. And I'm not saying that following a program has no advantages. It does. Okay, I'm going to get to those in a minute. But it is perfectly possible to get amazing gains without following a strict program, especially if you know how to train. Okay. Personally, I don't do well when I follow a strict regimen of training. I do need to include variation. I need to have the possibility to experiment some stuff I try out. Uh, so I keep my options open for many of the workouts. I do include elements that don't change in advance, but a good, let's say, 50% of my work is something that I might add along the way. I'm going to get to that in a moment when I'm going to tell you about what I'm doing. Okay. Now, the benefits of a program, when I say program, it's literally like the sheet of paper that tells you which exercises to do, how many sets, how many reps, rest intervals, tempo. Some people recommend that. Based on the roadmap, exactly what you need. The best analogy is a training program is a lot like a recipe. So you're learning to cook. You can't just wing it. If you want to learn to cook and you've never cooked before, well, you need to follow a recipe. And by following a recipe for a certain time, and the recipe basically ensures that what you will do give you the result you're looking for, the more you cook, the more you learn about how each ingredient works with other ingredients. And now you can start to experiment by following the recipe, but maybe subbing something, maybe playing with the quantities, maybe throwing in one more ingredient in there just to see what happens, right? And the more knowledge you gain, the less you actually need a recipe. You can go from a template. You know that you need this and because this is, and then you add many ingredients. That's kind of the same process. For example, if you are a high level chef, you probably don't use a cookbook. I mean, you know what to do because you know which ingredients and what ratio will lead to what taste, right? Training is a lot like that, I believe. I believe that training programs are mostly beneficial for people who are either starting their training journey, someone who wants to learn about a specific way of training. So, for example, a lot of people buy my programs not necessarily to follow the programs, but to see how my mind works. So, how I'm approaching a problem. For example, the problem is how can I stimulate more muscle growth than buying a program from me from a hypertrophy like those I've written for T Nation, give you basically a roadmap to understand my brain when it comes to solving that specific problem. Okay. So that is one of the main reasons why you can buy a program. Not so that you can follow it, but you can learn good ways of solving the problem, and then you can go from that starting point and make adjustments. Okay. Also, a program is good for people who actually need structure. Some people do tend to be all over the place. And there's a difference between smart experimentation, smart training adjustment, and just trying everything inside just because it looks cool on social media, right? And that can lead to problems because you do need a form of progression in a level of training stress, which is another reason why a program might be beneficial because it takes the guesswork out of the question of when should I increase the training stress? How should I progress? Am I adding weight? Am I adding reps? Am I adding sets? Am I decreasing rest periods? Basically, if you want to keep progressing, you need to gradually impose a bit more stress to your body as your body adapts. That's what adaptation is. You impose stress and it adapts by making itself better at handling that stress. Therefore, then training stress becomes less effective because it did a job at making you stronger against that stress. So if you are to continue progressing, you need a form of progression. And you don't need a program to progress, but it certainly helps to make sure that you are progressing the training stress at frequent intervals, right? And also, some people need to be held accountable. So a program can do that. Also, some people will gain motivation by following a program by some respect or admire, and being more motivated will actually help you train harder, give you better results. Okay, so that is a reason for your program. But having a program can also be demoralizing or demotivating for some people who actually do feel like they are like in a prison. I can't try anything else. Okay, so maybe for them something more in line with it, like a template, would be a better option. What is a template? It's basically the middle ground between a program, a strict program, and just doing anything you want. Okay, it gives you a structure, so you know that you're going to have, let's say, for example, what side you're going to have two max effort workouts, you're going to have two dynamic effort workouts. In your max effort workout, you're going to have a lift where you work up to you 1, 2, or 3 RM for the day. You know that dynamic effort work, you're going to be doing sets of 2 reps with something like 50, 60% for as much speed as possible. You know, then you're gonna have upper body, you're gonna have these exercises for these muscles. But as long as you follow the template, you can use any exercise training method you want. Okay, so so I think that a lot of people will do better on that. So you are programming, if you want, okay, the structure, the training days of your week, and the general content or the type of content for each workout, and the goal of each specific workout. Okay, and you go from there. Of course, the more experience you have, the more likely you are to be successful because now you know how to progress and you know the feeling of a hard workout, and you know how to try to increase that the difficulty of the workout. Okay, so what I'm doing personally, as I mentioned, it's a mix between a template and something that's more random. Uh, I do have, okay, at first, I'm going to explain what I'm doing, but first, I want to tell you what my goals are because what I'm doing might not be adaptable to what you want, but it might be, okay? And then I'm going to explain my decisions. Why am I picking that specific option? To understand that if I want that, here's what I want. Here's what I'm doing. Because that's the first thing you should be doing, rather than looking for which program or which template I use. And then you should look for the template, this looks fun, I'm going to do that. That's not how you select the way you train, regardless if you're doing a program, a training cycle, or just doing it. What you should be doing is first establishing what you want to accomplish. For example, and be really honest about it. Some people just want to be big and muscular. They don't care about getting stronger or fitter or leaner. Okay, that will be completely different than someone who wants to be lean and muscular, which will be completely different than someone who wants to be strong and lean, for example. Okay, like you need to establish in, let's say, a year from now, what do you want to be as far as physical appearance, physical capacities, health, whatever. Okay, you all write it down. You all write it down. Then you compare it to where you are right now, and that will tell you, well, are there in my goal as three main elements? Are there one of these three elements in which I'm close to my goal? And is there one where I'm super far from my goal? So basically, it tells you a blueprint. I'm here. I need to be here. This is what I need to work on and improve to get from here to there, right? And that's how you see it. So my priority, for example, will be conditioning because I'm further away now than to my goal. Then I want to get stronger, which is a middle ground for me. I'm still decently strong, but nowhere close to what I want to be. And I want to have this amount of leanness, which is least important because I'm pretty lean right now. I mean, I'm at the degree of leanness I want. Basically, my goal at the end of the year is to be, let's say, at the conditioning level of, let's say, a fighter. Okay? And I'm doing that for fighting right now. I want a conditioning to be able to do boxing and MMA and not be winded and actually be able to do a 5 minute round, for example. Okay? And I'm far away from that, so is my priority. I also want strength because I always value strength. To me, strength is more important than size. In fact, if you're looking at strictly the main goals of strength, size, and leanness, to me, leanness is the most important. Strength is second. Size is third, and it's pretty decent third. I only was really interested in getting bigger when I thought that my brand should be in the hypertrophy camp, which never been my passion. It's always been performance based. So to me, my most important thing right now is conditioning. Strength is second. Adding some muscle right places would be third. Leanness, I would be at the top, but I'm already pretty lean, so that just comes with territory. Right? So then from that goal, I'm selecting the tools and methods that will get me there. So, for example, since my two main training goals are conditioning and strength, it makes sense that I have conditioning workouts and I have strength workouts. And because hypertrophy is a very minor goal for me, I simply add a small amount of hypertrophy work in my strength session. That will be enough to get me what I want. Anyway, I will get some hypertrophy for the strength work anyway. So what my week looks like, okay? And again, I don't have a specific number of workouts per week. Some days I will train 6 days a week. Some I will train three. But what I do is I always alternate, okay, with a strength workout and a conditioning workout. Strength workout, conditioning workout, and so on and so forth. Depending on how many days I have available, it's going to be either two of each or three of each. Okay. So my strength workouts are all workouts are whole body workouts, by the way. So my strength workouts, what I decided to do is which exercises do I want to be strong at? Okay, because it's nice and fine that you want to be strong, okay, but are there lifts that are more important to you? Lifts you want to get strong at, or lifts that if you get strong at will give you the best overall power look or the best overall physical capacities. So the lift I pick for my strength workouts are the snatch, grip, high pull blocks, because it's also a power exercise. I believe that as I'm getting older, power and speed is the thing that decreases the most. You want to maintain that. I've always also gotten great results from the look that I like when it comes to snatch, grip, high pulls. It always jack up my traps, and it makes me look more powerful. And I generally enjoy doing high pulls. And what I like about high pulls is that there's a higher technical component. I like doing lots of sets to all my skills. Okay, so I don't always plan the number of sets I'm doing. On that later. Okay, the second exercise I selected was dips. To me, the dips is what gives me the best chest and triceps gain, much better than bench press, in which I tend to shoulder dominant. Also, because of my shoulder injury. I can't bench press heavy without having shoulder issues flaring out. However, for some reason, I can do dips very heavy and it does not affect my shoulder. So to me, the dip is the movement I selected to improve my pressing strength and my pressing muscle. I also found that whenever my dips strength increase, my bench press always follows, even if I don't practice as much. The third lift, which is my three main strength lift, the third lift is the Zercher squat. The reason I picked the Zercher squat is I want to be honest. I don't necessarily want or need huge legs. Okay, the Zercher squat to me is a way to train your legs while getting some additional upper body and core stimulation. It's not as good as a front squat or back squat to build your legs because you of all the squats except overhead squat. Typically speaking, the Zercher squat is the squat we're going to use the least amount of weight. There are exceptions. There are exceptions, right? But for people like me who have short limbs, the Zercher is often used a lift where you use the less weight. Furthermore, I'm using a thick bar, which actually reduces the weight further because I cannot planche as much and keep the bar closer to me. So it challenges the core and the traps and the upper back almost as much as my leg. In fact, I do feel those muscles more than my legs when I'm doing Zercher squats. But that's fine because that's what I want. I want that power look. I want the big traps. I want a thick back. And I want bigger arms. And I want a core of steel because I want to be able to take punches. And to me, the Zercher squat fits that bill more than any other lower body exercise, especially since I don't want or need to have huge squats. So that the small amount, decent amount of leg stimulation from the Zercher is enough for me. And to those three lifts, I had a fourth, sorry, which is the thick barbell curl. And I do train for strength, but with slightly higher reps, because biceps has always been my weakness. And anything arm flexion related, which includes pull-ups, has always been my nemesis. I don't have any the arm strength to do plenty of pull-ups, and I lack the strength to be strong at curling, and I want stronger arms. Okay, and also bigger arms. That's the one muscle I want more of. So these are my four main strength lifts. When I do a strength workout, I use a modified Doug Hepburn split. So that's like the one thing I do plan in my workout, and that is fairly structured and includes a specific progressive model. Now, the way I modified the Hepburn split is I'm going to be doing 8 sets per exercise. Okay, and by the way, I'm doing these 4 exercises as a circuit. Okay, I do have some rest between exercises, like a minute and a half, something like that. But I'm doing them as a circuit. Like I call it a strength circuit. You can do on T Nation. I've written in the past about strength circuit. Okay? So I'm doing 8 sets, 8 rounds, and between 2 and 3 reps. My goal is to eventually do 8 sets of 3 reps with the same amount of weight. Okay, so let's say I'm hypo. I'm training at 225, for example. My goal is to get 8 sets of 3 reps. When I do that, I add weight. Now I actually have a very strict progression, even a very slow progression. So for example, the first session, the first 2 sets will be with 3 reps. Okay, and then I have 6 sets. The 6 last sets will be sets of 2 reps. Okay, the next time I do that workout again, I'm gonna add. I'm gonna transform 2 of the sets of 2 reps into sets of 3 reps. So now I have 4 sets of 3, 4 sets of 2. The next workout, I transform 2 more sets of 2 into sets of 3. So now I have 6 sets of 3 and 2 sets of 2. And finally, I will transform the last 2 sets of 2 into threes, and that gives me my 8 sets of 3 reps. After which, I will go back to 2 sets of 3, 6 sets of 2 with more weight. Okay, so it basically takes me 4 workout to add weight to the bar on my lift, which is a very slow progression. And the weight I'm using is not maximum. Like it's probably a weight I could be doing 5 reps with. Okay, so it gives me a very gentle and gradual progression in strength. When it comes to strength, okay, your proximity to failure is not relevant. There is no correlation between the amount of strength gain and proximity to failure. Okay, the only thing that matters is the average load being used on an exercise, and I'm covering that by gradually increasing the weight. Okay, so that would be my strength workout. After the strength work is done, if I feel good, I might add some hypertrophy work. For example, my last workout, I added some hammer curls and I added some saw press and I did some upright row for more traps. But I don't always add those hypertrophy workouts. Now, this is for my strength days. The conditioning days are days that gives me the freedom I want. Okay, They are not planned. I literally wake up in the morning and I decide what I will be doing, and I typically do these workouts with my wife because I honestly, and I'm just being honest, I'm not someone who likes conditioning work, and I'm not good at it. So having a rabbit training with me, my wife, does CrossFit, actually forces me to do the work, because I do have some ego. One of my goals is actually to beat my wife at CrossFit in many, many months. Okay. So the only thing that is fairly stable is the structure of those workouts. They are circuits, but no rest between exercises. And I want to cover the whole body in 4 to 5 movements. Okay. So that will be for all my conditioning exercises. Uh, so for example, one workout I did dips, bodyweight dips only for maximum reps. Then I did power snatches from hang for 5 reps. Then I did farmer's walk for 60 meters. Then I did kettlebell swings for 20 reps. Then I would do my rest period being active. So I do go on a bike, stationary bike, and I go slowly for 2 minutes. That's my rest period. That's my rest period. Okay, and the exercises, the reps, the drift it will all change on the day. Just what I feel like doing. As long as it's hard work, it's for circuit, and I do 5 to 6 rounds. So typically, it gives me between 25 and 35 minutes of work, which is the zone I want to train. I want to do my workouts in for conditioning. That's my main work. It's between 4 and 6 sessions per week. To that, I will add some stuff. For example, I'm doing martial arts, 3 practices, 3 classes a week. I'm doing boxing once a week, which also trains my energy systems. And I will add just zone one cardio, just 120 beats per minute whenever I can. I try to get at least 3 hours of those per week. Sometimes I will get 4 or 5 hours. Sometimes I only can get two, but I'm shooting for 3 total hours in my. So that's basically what my training looks like. And with my goal is mostly improving conditioning. I have 2 to 3 workouts specifically designed for that, and it's also trained when I'm doing martial arts and when I'm doing boxing. Second goal is strength, and I because I'm getting older, because I have bagging shoulder and elbow injuries, I'm using a very slow progression model. The Hepburn method is the slowest progression you can use in still progressing. So it's very gentle. So it allows me, with my condition of getting older and having joint issues, more room to progress. That's what I'm doing. All right. So with that being said, sorry for boring you with my things. I'm gonna get to your questions. All right. See, is it okay to change the variation squat, deadlift, row, and press for each of the 3 days of the omni contraction? Those who don't know what the contraction system is, it's the training system I use with athletes, or it's one of the system I use with athletes. It has 3 whole body workouts per week and one smaller gap workout at the end where we do hypertrophy work. And those strength workouts are only using 3 to 4 uh, big lifts. The first workout, which is on Monday, is focused on the eccentric, so either slow eccentric or eccentric loads. The second day, which is on Wednesday, focused on either isometric or dynamic, including pauses during lift. And the third day is just regular concentric, so either pure concentric lift front ends or just normal lifting. Is it okay to use different variations? For example, you could use uh, back squat, or let's say front squat for the eccentric focus, back squat for the dynamic focus, and then let's say Anderson squat for with heels elevated for concentric. It's fine if you are not a competitive athlete. The reason why I'm mentioning that is that I find exercise variation to be more demanding on the nervous system. So if you are someone who also has to do plenty of sprinting work, conditioning work, I prefer to stick to the same lift for all 3 workouts. I also find it leads to greater strength gains on those movements. But if you're just training to get overall strong, yes, you can change. You can use a different variation for all 3 days. Now, the way I like to do it when someone needs more variation, okay, is to keep the same exercise twice. So on Monday and on Friday, we do the same exercise, which would be the best variation for your body type. For example, you have short legs and a long torso, you're going to stick with a back squat. It would be a back squat Monday, a back squat Friday. And then the one in the middle, the statodynamic, you would use the squat variation that would target your weakness. So for example, let's say that your quads are weaker, you're going to do a front squat. If your core is weaker, if it's your weak point in the squat, you're going to do a Zercher squat. The pause also allows you to target a more specific muscle more precisely. But yes, you can use variation. Are some of the keys to longevity, like my training program, Eternal Warrior, the ability to excel at different contraction types, as well as how well you can do loaded carries, while pushing, etc. Uh, to some extent, I would say it's more a matter of what training each contraction types will give you. Okay, for example, emphasizing the eccentric will train two things that might come in handy as you're getting older. The first one would be tendon strength. So a slow eccentric is good for your tendons, and as you're getting older, the tendon tend to be more injury prone. That would be a benefit. Also, the if emphasizing the eccentric will um, eccentric, improve motor control, and also sorry, it improves your capacity to absorb force, to decelerate the weight. So, for example, when you're running, many injuries occur because you are not good at absorbing force, and then you're shifting position. So these two things are actually reducing the risk of injuries as you're getting older, and also allowing you to do stuff like sprinting, like loaded carries, more safely or more effectively. Okay, statodynamic allows you to target certain weak points which you might have developed with years and years of training. There's also an injury prevention portion, meaning that when you're doing an isometric action, whether it's part of a lift or by itself, you are increasing the recruitment of the synergistic muscles and the antagonist muscle to create stability. Training isometric will allow you to develop the capacity to stabilize a joint, which again can further decrease the risk of injury, which is higher when you're getting older. So it's not so much that it has anti-aging or pro longevity effect, is that the gains you get from training at different contraction types will have benefits that will reduce the risk of injury or overuse, stuff like that, that will age. All right. The past 2 weeks, you spoke about deloads. Can you expand on that with your concept of a reload as well as a neural charge session? I'm not sure I understand exactly what you mean. When you reintroduce the loading, or you want to learn more about neural charge. Now, what I want to tell you about neural charge is not that I was wrong, but I kind of first misunderstood the true effect. The true effect of the neural charge session. And for those who don't know what a neural charge session or neural charge workout is, it's essentially a session that with as little fatigue as possible, done with only explosive movement. So you are doing explosive movement to amp up the nervous system, but to stop each exercise before there's some fatigue. In fact, you don't want any decrease in speed. So typically, traditionally, it would be sets of 3 reps with maximum explosion. Any movement on which you can be violently explosive will work. And when I say violently explosive, it's not just the movement speed itself, it's the intent. In fact, for a neural charge workout to work well, the intent is actually more important than the actual speed. So should have the same mindset for each rep as you would if you're trying to knock somebody out. Okay, anything less than that will not have maximum effect on neurological activation. Okay, now what has been shown by research, and that's what I used the neural charge workout for initially, is that a neural charge workout like that will increase performance on either strength or explosive, like speed or power movement, for as many as 36 hours. Okay. Of course, peak increase will occur between 12, let's say even 6 and 12 hours roughly. But a good portion is still maintained around the 24-hour mark. So I actually measured that. So it can actually give you the illusion that it speeds up neurological recovery, which is a theory I had. But that's not what it does. It just creates an activation that keeps your nervous system primed to perform, and it can actually mask fatigue. because by amping your brain up, it's kind of like taking a stimulant. Okay, it does the same job at a central nervous system site. So it gives you the illusion that you are less fatigued because you can perform more. That doesn't mean that fatigue is going away. So I recommend using zero charge workout when you want to increase performance rather than when you want to speed up neurological recovery. What do you think of the term power building? There seems to be a pushback recently saying it's a waste of time and just a way of not excelling in each goal. That seems short-sighted to me. It is. Um, I think it comes from the social media that led people to believe, and it actually is true from a financial standpoint, that the more black and white you are, the more polarizing you are, the more financially successful you're going to be. Okay. Uh, like it or not, and that's been my big drawback. I'm kind of the guy who can see a proper application for everything. Okay. And that's a hard sell because people, especially those who are insecure about their training, they want to hear from someone who's just dead certain or sound dead certain, and that this is how you do things. Anything else sucks. It's my method, and it just creates those pockets or these groups of people. And this is my belief. This is my belief. And if you include more than one belief in one group, it just doesn't sell. It's like there cannot be, according to these people, two best things. There's one best thing, and it's mine. Okay, so I believe that social media led to polarization because that is what gives you followers. Because you can now like argue against other, and people love that. People love arguments, and it makes you sound like you're certain that you are on the right track, and that sells more. Okay, but the reality is that like power building is essentially how most powerlifter train anyway. So power building is really like powerlifting without the peaking. And again, you can build lots of muscle doing that. You look at most powerlifters; they carry a ton of muscle. Uh, Even the lighter weight classes. Of course, they oftentimes carry more fat because they don't have to be lean, and getting super lean decreases the capacity to produce force by reducing stability, for example. But if you take a powerlifter and you get him lean, he's going to be freaking muscular. Not to the point of being like a IFBB pro, but he's going to be more muscular than someone who trains just for hypertrophy in those gyms. Okay. And the reality is that when you look at our powerlifter trains, okay, the main lift is typically trained for strength. Now, depending on which training school you belong to, let's say if you do West Side, then you'll do that lift for max effort, like 95, 100% weight. You try to hit a 1 RM or 2 RM or 3 RM at each session on the selected lift. If you believe more in a matter of like an Atfield traditional 1980s powerlifting training, you're going to be using a cycle of, let's say, 8 to 10 weeks to gradually work up to that 100%, 105% mark, starting at around 80, 85% and gradually increasing the weight. But it's still strength work. You can use, like I'm doing, the Epburn method. If you want a slower progression, you can use 5-3-1, which is also a strength progression. The point is that the power lifter will train the main lift to reach a strength increase. Okay, and the difference between the power lifter and someone who just would do power building is that the power lifter would have a phase at the end to peak that lift for competition. And if you just want to get stronger, you don't need to do that. Okay, now the misconception is that power building is basically just using maximum weight for everything. It doesn't like even the systems work is done for sets of five because you need to train heavy on everything. That's not true. That's not how it works. Proper power building, which is essentially a contraction of powerlifting and bodybuilding, is what most powerlifters are doing. You train the main lift for like a powerlifter, and then you train the assistance lift like a bodybuilder. It's not like each exercise has to be a power building exercise. No, no. The main lift or the main lift plus its main assistance exercises are trained for strength, and the rest is trained for hypertrophy, thus giving you gains in both strength like a powerlifter and size like a bodybuilder. And if you ask top powerlifters, many will tell you that they regret, like at Cohn, what he said at one seminar was that he regret not doing more hypertrophy work for resistance work. You look at Westside Barbell, all the assistance work is done bodybuilding style. They even use many machines in isolation exercises. You look at how Dan Green trains, his assistance work is mostly bodybuilding work. Okay, it works. Okay, the the powerlifters who are strong but don't show a great physique, or those who don't do the assistance work for hypertrophy, they only do the main lift. Okay, so if you do power building, the way you do it is the main lift is trained to get stronger. Depending on what school of thought, it could be sets of 1 rep, 3 reps, 5 reps, depending on what you want. But and that main lift is not there to give you the muscle mass. It's there to give you the strength. And that's why you might also do one exercise also to build strength in those exercises. So that's the strength portion. Then you have the building portion, which is done with the assistance exercises, which are trained like a bodybuilder, hence giving you gains like powerlifter and gains like bodybuilder. And unsurprisingly, most powerlifters would actually be better powerlifters if they train like that, especially in the off season, because more muscle means that they will have more strength once they develop their nervous system. So properly used power building is absolutely fine. I think that the type of power building that is catching a bad rep, by guys like Mike Van Wyck, for example, and I love Mike, okay, super smart dude, is that they think that the image is that every lift is trained like you're training to gain maximum strength on that lift. And yes, that probably doesn't work well. Okay, but it's like when you're building a house. When you're building a house, you have a hammer, you have a saw, you have other tools, and you don't use every tool the same way. You don't use the saw the same way you use a hammer. There's a specific way and specific purpose for each exercise. Same thing with training. With training, in power building, the main lift and its main assistance is there to build strength. Don't worry about getting bigger from those exercises, just getting stronger. Then you add exercises to get you bigger. That's how you do power building. You don't train everything for sets of 3 to 6 reps, try to get bigger overall. Okay, that might not be optimal. You look at balance with an eye to longevity training. Any drills? Okay, yeah, balance actually, yeah. Any drills to progress you are aware of? Yes, I would rather use a more general terminology. I use at moving properly, coordination, body control, in which balance is a big part. Okay, and yes, improving that is very important for longevity. First, because if you are moving better, the risk of injury is lower, and you can be more effective with your exercise. Or more importantly, working on that actually maintains neurological function. I was having a discussion on the Team Nation forum about um, I started doing martial arts. A guy mentioned I started doing surfing, and he said I fall a lot. I said, "Dude, that's amazing. A thing that you should be doing to be better when you're aging or pro longevity is to become a beginner in something again. Okay, because learning to master movements or a skill maintains neurological function. So the moment you stop using that, you will have a regression in your neurological function. That can actually be learning stuff like learning a trade or learning like being book smart or learning new movements, new skill, new motor skills in which normally balance would be an issue. And those absolutely will help you by simply improving neurological function. Like something as simple as learning to juggling would really help you with maintaining neurological function as you're getting older. Balance training would also help, especially since as you're getting older, people tend to have balance issues. But me, for example, I'm learning boxing, I'm learning martial arts, and martial arts is challenging because there's a lot of ranges of motion that I'm not used to taking, or many position I'm not used to balancing myself in. So that maintains or improves my neurological function. It absolutely is something that you should be doing as you're getting older, broaden your spectrum of skill and knowledge. Hey, coach. 2 days ago, I was reading your numerical inclination, hypertrophy training, putting them together. There's a part where it says people who want to improve their physique while practicing sports such as MMA or grappling should train under one of these two philosophies of training, or a lower one. Could you please give us an example of how people who practice combat sports should structure progress based on these training philosophy? That's one long question. And again, one thing you want to understand is that what I meant in the article is if you practice a sport and your training is not aimed at making you better at your sport. Okay, there's a difference between I'm doing MMA because I enjoy it and I just want to learn to fight and I want the fitness improvement from it, and then I'm going to use training to get more jacked, okay, or look better. This is different than I'm doing MMA. I want to be as good as I can in MMA, so I'm going to use the training that will improve my MMA. That's what I'm doing. Okay, I know that what is more problematic for me for martial arts and boxing is my conditioning. So my workouts are aimed at improving conditioning. I also want more strength, so my workouts are aimed at strength. I don't worry about hypertrophy right now. Article is specifically for people who want to train for size only and also do a sport on the side for fun. Okay, that's different. Then I want to gear my training toward improving my sport. Okay, as far as how to progress, I actually wrote in that series uh, a whole article on effort-based and load-based training. So you can actually just go there and all the variables are there, including how you progress. Is an off day per week necessary if you're covering many energy systems? Could one day be a week goes on to work as a rest day? That's kind of like what I'm doing. I'm always doing something. I'm not saying it's optimal. Uh, to me, and again, I subscribe to the same school of thought as my friend Mike Van Wyck. Friend, just because we have some conversation doesn't mean we're friends, but I know him and he knows. Um, and he said that his philosophy to taking a day off is he doesn't plan them in advance. When you wake up one morning, he knows you need to take a day off. That's pretty much how I do things. And that probably is not the answer you expect to hear from a strength coach who plan workouts for a living or plan training programs for a living. And the politically correct answer should be, well, you need your rest days to grow and all that stuff. The reality is that if your body is ready to function and you feel good, you can be physically active. It doesn't mean you push yourself as hard as possible, uh, but you can do something, especially if you change the type of work you're doing, because fatigue or the need for recovery is system specific. For example, just because your muscles are damaged and inflamed and need recovery doesn't mean that you can't do zone 2 cardio, okay, or even zone 3 cardio for that regard, which are not muscle dependent and won't probably cause muscle damage depending on the tool you're using. Okay, uh, just because you have challenge your aerobic capacity doesn't mean you cannot do skill work on one day. It really is a matter of when you wake up, will you be able to do a quality session that will lead to an improvement? If yes, go train. If you really feel like, you know what, if I train today, my workout will be crap, then don't train. You just won't be physically active. So that's my mindset. Okay, it's not something that you will hear often on social media because well, people what sells is a rigid approach. Don't do this, do this because people are insecure. They want someone who will be serving for them. Okay, now I do have rules. Like if I feel like crap, I'm not going to be training. If I'm tired and achy, I'm not going to be training, or I might just do very light physical activity. But as long as I feel like I can turn in a good workout, I'm going to be training. Okay. All right. So Charles Poliquin said, hold the dumbbell toward one hand of the dumbbell aid, like for for biceps curl. What is the reasoning for this? All right. It helps if you take, I don't have a dumbbell here. I'm going to use the shaker here. Let's say that's the handle of your dumbbell. This is the outer portion. Okay. If I take it closer to here, this is longer. So this will weight more. It's the same weight, but the lever arm is longer. So this is harder than this. So it forces me to put more torque with that part of the arm, trying to supinate. It won't supinate, but the weight is trying to do this. you're resisting, like doing this, that increases bicep activation because a bicep is a supinator. So increasing, make sure that the salt doesn't fall off. If you are taking here, this is the same resistance. If you here, this is more resistance. That will not help you. Okay, that's not what you want. You want here. So this will be more challenging. It's trying to do this. So you have to produce supination strength tension that will increase bicep activation. That's how it works. That works even better if you do a rotating dumbbell curl. Like you start neutral and you curl like doing this because it actually increases tension or load during uh, the supination portion of the exercise. Coach, when you do kickboxing, do you feel stiff? Do you feel that stiffness is in a muscle fascia, tight on the muscles? Yeah. Actually, the I'm not an expert in fascia. Okay, Grove Higgins. If you go on T Nation, I think he has a forum. Grove Higgins is the guy to ask about that. He's the master of fascia. One thing I know of is that what will make a fascia tight is mostly dehydration. Okay, uh, dehydrated or fatigued fascia will be stiff, like fibrous, and the better hydrated you are, the more smooth it is. About your most recent book, can't wait for it to arrive. Get some information from it before training with Tom next week. Awesome. Yeah, it's basically the way I'm training for strength. I think you will really enjoy it. It's weird. I normally don't read the stuff I write because I can't stand it, but I actually reread the book and it's awesome. And Tom is a great, great technical coach, so you're gonna have fun there. Uh, how do you suggest to train for calisthenic skills like planche and front lever, where first you have to build strength, to move and then build endurance to increase hold time. That's not my area of expertise. I did do some body weight training like 10 years ago, 15 years ago, when I was focusing on gymnastic rings. Honestly, it's not something I'm comfortable giving advice on. It's really not my area of expertise. Uh, like thoughts on chewing each bite for more than 3 seconds. Does this lead to more nutrient absorption? Uh, Maybe because you're breaking it down more. You also have enzymes in your mouth, so it's like you're pre-digesting the food. So when it's into your stomach, it's easier to digest. I don't think you have more nutrients. I just think it eases up the digestion process. That might be beneficial if you have poor digestion. Uh, does this your opinion on beef, rice, and low gas veggies food? I have no idea what you're asking. Uh, I did a CrossFit workout, and with my Apple Watch, I was in zone 4, yeah, for 20 minutes. And even if it to extend zone 4 training. Geez, what do you mean by extend? What are the benefits of zone 4 training? Then increase aerobic power. Okay, so VO2 max. So that's something that you want to train. Uh, Absolutely. Basically, that's what my conditioning workouts look like. It's roughly 25, 35 minutes. Tips or advice on increasing external rotation and internal hip rotation, loaded stretching. Loaded stretching, I can't demonstrate the exercises, so you can go on T Nation and look for an article on loaded stretching. I specifically address hip rotation with a loaded stretch exercise. What box height is best for both split squat to get full range of motion and maximum muscle activation for hypertrophy? There's a higher box equals less range of motion. Only if you have poor hip flexor mobility in the back leg. Okay? If you have poor hip flexor range of motion or mobility, then it's gonna affect the movement depth. It's also gonna shift you forward, reducing the stress on the quads, putting more emphasis on the glutes, which might be what you want. So typically speaking, I go with lower rather than higher. I like a box height that is anywhere between, let's say, mid shin high to just above the knee, for example. And that will be depending on your mobility. What's up, coach? Hello. Currently in a similar situation, I want to focus on my fitness protocol to better my boxing. How would you direct an athlete in my position? Again, it really depends on what is holding you back. Is it a matter of conditioning? Is it a matter of strength? Is it a matter of power? Okay. Uh, so if you're aiming to just increase conditioning, I would start what I'm doing. I would be doing 2 workouts a week that are circuits that will last roughly 3 minutes per round of nonstop work. I like to use 4 to 5 different exercises because it's less boring. But technically, you could actually do just one exercise hard for 3 minutes. But you do I like a circuit because you can work more different muscles, and then you rest for 2 minutes. But it's an active rest on the stationary bike. Then you start again. So each round will be 5 minutes. 3 minutes hard, 2 minutes relaxed, then you start again, and you have 5 6 of those circuits. So I do these twice a week, and that covers my. I've already noticed a big difference on how hard the boxing sessions feel. Okay, then there's obviously the aspect of power and strength that needs to be addressed. I'm not sure that you want to be sport specific right now, but certainly including both strength and high velocity movement would be helpful, especially if you have no experience with speed movement. So you could probably do anywhere between 1 and 3 of those strength plus speed sessions. All right, guys. One more topic I want to cover, people, because I had actually have 3 topics I want to cover. So one more topic I want to cover is that of cheat days. Okay, I made a post on Instagram recently mentioning that if someone asks me when this cheat day is going to be before you even start dieting, I know that person will never reach their goal. Okay, and even you, as you're, let's say, planning your fat loss phase and you're planning your diet or whatnot, or your eating strategy, if you are asking yourself, when would I put on my cheat days? Or if you at all think I'm going to have a cheat day like every Saturday, you will fail. You will fail your diet. That's I've trained so many different people for body composition. Those who ask for a cheat day or those who wanted a weekly cheat day always were who never achieved their goal. The reason is that it shows me they are not in the proper mindset. Now, a cheat day in itself is not bad. It's actually, if it's as long as it's not a binging contest, it probably won't ruin your progress completely. Although you could ruin the week's progress, okay, if you do an excessive cheat day, which is why I believe that most people should not have a cheat day. As I say, The Rock can have a cheat day, but you can't because The Rock is first 250 pounds of muscle. So the bigger you are, the more room you have to store carbohydrates. So the less likely you are to store them as fat. Also, the bigger you are, the more energy you burn just by being alive. So a large amount of food eaten on one day is less likely to impact their body composition. The Rock is already lean, so he might not be looking to lose much fat, just increasing, staying lean and building muscle. And The Rock is, I'm gonna get coming for that, but most likely enhanced. I'm protecting myself by saying most likely, which actually affect insulin sensitivity. So one impact of steroids and things like growth hormone is that it decreases the likelihood of carbohydrates being stored as fat, and you store more in a muscle that actually gives you more room to have carbs. Okay? So you probably can't have a cheat day, or most people can't. Most people can have a cheat meal, that's fine, but don't turn that cheat meal into a cheat day. There are also no benefit to eating crap in a diet. Literally, there's no benefit. It's all downside, except for it gives you pleasure. That's the only benefit. Other than that, it creates inflammation and it can actually give you craving during the week. Uh, if you know that you're going to have a cheat meal or cheat day on Saturday, well, come Wednesday, you're already thinking about it. And just thinking about it will give you cravings about it. Okay. And the leaner you are, the greater those cravings become. So when I program a diet, or what I can't program, I'm not a dietitian, but when I program an eating strategy for someone who wants to lose fat, I never include cheat meals or cheat days. I'm aware that everybody will have one once in a while. They just follow the wagon. That's fine. Okay, that's fine. But I don't plan them. I do plan refeeds. Refeeds are period where or days where I increase the amount of carbohydrates being consumed, but from the same carbohydrate sources that were consumed or are consumed during the diet days. And the goal of that is simply to first increases muscle glycogen. If you're dieting down, especially on lower carbs, your glycogen or muscle glycogen storage will decrease. And that has two impacts. First, it reduces your capacity to train hard. So, and if you can't train as hard in the gym or in your conditioning session, it will become gradually harder to keep progressing both in fat loss and muscle gain or at least muscle maintenance. Okay? So having a refeed day per week where you refill your glycogen stores will allow you to keep training hard during the next week, which will allow you to better maintain muscle and better lose fat. The second reason is that one, your muscles are depleted of glycogen. They look flat, they look small, and you look like crap. Okay, I'm going to use myself as an example. Yesterday, actually looked great in the morning, and then for some reason, at around 2 p.m., I looked myself in the mirror. I looked like a deflated version of myself. I looked so much smaller, had less definition, actually looked fatter. Of course, I didn't gain fat or lost muscle in a 6 hours period. What actually happened is that like, I reached a point where my glycogen stores were depleted and my muscles looked small and flat. I had more carbs, and then this morning I looked great again. Okay, so by having those repeats, allow you to be better able to assess the progress you make in your the third benefit is that it prevents the decrease in leptin that comes with diet. And carbohydrates have been shown to prevent the decrease of leptin better than fat. Leptin is essentially a hormone that tells your body that you're well fed and you can keep your metabolic rate coming. When leptin goes down, it tells the brain that you are underfed and it will give you cravings and it might also decrease metabolic rate, but you have more cravings. So having carbs, once a week more, having a refeed in carbs can help you prevent that drop in leptin, which will make the whole dieting process easier. Okay, but that's why I always focus on carbs when I refeed, not fat. And even if you want to go with a cheat, the less fat you have in your cheat, the better. It should be protein and carbs mostly, because that at least reduces the chance of storing fat, and it will give you more anabolic response. Okay. So when it comes to cheat days, I don't plan them. I worry that once in a while you might need one to stay sane. If that happens, make sure it's a meal, not a day, and put that meal as late as possible in your day. Because if you eat it at let's say at 7 a.m., and it will give you cravings for cheat food for the rest of the day, and you're going to turn it into a cheat day. If you had it at 6 p.m., then you don't have much, like you don't have many hours where you want to crave food. So that's going to be less likely to lead to a splurge. Okay. You also want to select foods that are higher in carbs rather than higher in fat, or a combination of carbs and fat. The less fat you have, the better it is for you. Maybe one more question. Uh, in a compound exercise, is there if there's a muscle that can't keep up with the others, is it better to allow it to catch up over time, or do targeting training for that muscle to fix the problem? Yeah, you need to fix the problem. You need to fix the problem because what happens is, let's say you're doing a bench press. When you use a bench press, let's say that your shoulders are dominant. Let's say your triceps are dominant, your chest is less involved. Okay, so what happens is when you do a big lift, especially if you're lifting fairly heavy or close to failure, the body will always look for the most economical strategy, the most efficient muscle recruitment strategy to lift as safely as possible. Your body doesn't know you're trying to get a big chest for the beach. It only knows there's a big weight trying to crush you, and if you don't lift it, you're going to die on it. So, in the interest of survival, it will use the muscles best suited to do the job for you. Some people are stronger in some muscles than others. They are more efficient. They have better leverage. They have better neurological activation of some muscle. But regardless of the point, you might use your triceps more than your chest. And what that means is that because the triceps are doing more of the work, they will be stimulated more, so they are growing faster. So if you just do a bench press, let's say, and my chest is weaker, I'm just going to wait for my chest to catch up. It will never catch up because your triceps are receiving more stimulation. So as the time progresses, your triceps get stronger and stronger and stronger at a much faster rate than your pectorals. So the stronger your triceps get, the more likely your body is to use mostly triceps when doing bench press because it's seen as the most economical strategy. You know what I mean? So you need first to make sure that the chest, which is your weaker muscle in my example, grow at least as fast as your triceps and likely faster so that you can rebalance the muscles. Okay? But also you need maybe to use change in technique, maybe try to find a technique in the exercise that allows you to better target a certain muscle. For example, on bench press, you want to keep your shoulders down to try to imagine that trying to lift your chest with your arm rather than pushing with your shoulders like that. So that will increase pectoral focus. You might also use a strategy like post fatigue or pre fatigue activation to for example, learn to use your chest better. So, for example, you could um, do just let's say a nice contraction for your chest. You're gonna be like squeezing like this for let's say 20 seconds just to activate the chest. Then you do your bench press. You will have better activation because you've made that muscle more sensitive to the neuromuscular activation. But that is more complex. So, but if you the basic strategy would be yes. If a muscle is lagging in a lift, you need to focus more on that lift, on that muscle. Just doing the lift will not solve the imbalance. It will make the imbalance more pronounced. All right, guys, thank you for being here. I enjoyed your questions. I hope you enjoyed my information. So I'm going to see you next Thursday. Ideally, tell more people about it. So the more we are, the more fun